So we come to our second poem. This is called The Swan. The Swan. This is why, this poem is the reason why the image I chose for the ad was the swan. So it comes from this same book, The Swan, by yours truly, Nanika Edwards. Life was ugly. Love flew away. But look, look, I am a swan today. Life was lonely. I was sad, lost. Now see, behold, my snowy wings soft. Kindness found me. She gave me wings, granted me beauty and a song to sing. Though seasons came frosty and cold, I flowered in spring. Oh, look, behold, I am lovely. Oh, I am me. This still pond mirrors beauty destined to be. Life was ugly. Love flew away. Oh, look, behold, I am a swan today. Okay, so that's a swan. And oh, thanks, Kizzy. That's a swan. And I won't bother to ask all of these questions because it'll just take too long. But I'll tell you what really stood out to me from this. First of all, you know what story this is alluding to, right? What classic story is this alluding to? This
The Ugly Duckling.
right, the ugly duckling, the ugly duckling. So this is the point where the swan has the swan is now a full grown swan and knows that it was never a duck. And you know, when I was a little girl, it never struck me when I heard this story, really, that the swan was never a duck. The reason why the swan had low self-esteem was because everybody was telling him he was a duck. But if everybody knew he was a swan, then he would have had no issues. He would have known, well, at this stage of development, this is what a swan looks like, and I'm still beautiful and all of those things. But everybody kept telling him he was a duck. So that was really the issue with the swan, that people all around the swan were telling the swan that it was something that it wasn't, and the swan was believing them. So I really feel like that's like a really, all those stories, those like Red Riding Hood and Hansel and Gretel, they really, I think, come from true life. So like sometimes in different ways people may tell us things that are not true about ourselves. Sometimes they think it's true and sometimes they're just being mean, right? And those things can lead us to not like ourselves very much sometimes, or certain parts of ourselves. And we have to kind of um, learn how to see through things that people tell us that are not true, you know? I don't know if anybody's ever had that experience. You know, you may have had a teacher who told you that you were dotish, or a parent, or I don't know, things like that. I know nobody in this group hopefully has ever experienced that, but some people may have, you know? And that's what this says to me, this poem.
Well, Annika, you know, the thing is, I think an abusive parent can make you feel that way because you're taught to respect your parents and believe everything they say.
Right.
They're a power position. They have a power position in your life, and if you have an abusive parent, um, you're trained to think of yourself the way they see you. And it might take a whole lifetime to get to see the real you, the real Swan.
Right. Yeah, that's true. You're
And
right.
that's where I think self-care and self-love comes in.
Yes.
You know, because it's work. It's like those legs that are shackled, like in your Chinese script.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes work. I think all love takes work, whether
Right.
you love yourself or love somebody else, because you have to accept your flaws and work with that. And find something beautiful in.
Correct. That's true. That's true.
Yes.
Yeah. I know, like, I don't know if anybody else would like to say anything. You'd like to say anything? I know, like in my case, sometimes when people tell me things or insinuate things, what I would do automatically now is compare it with what I know God tells me about myself, like what God says to me Himself. So people are always trying to insinuate things to me. And then I would say, but wait a minute. God never told me that. If God never told me that, then I'm not taking these people on. That's kind of how I deal with those things, right? Okay. So I'm gonna move on. And by the way, we have our next okay, so these are real life scenarios that reflect what happened with the swan. The teacher who says you're hopeless, the parent who says you're stupid, the bully who says you're worthless, the magazine that says you're too fat, the TV ad that says you're too dark, circumstances that say you're cursed. All of these things, the enemy or people can find ways to try to shape us, and we can fill the shape that God has given to us, not the shape that other people try to give to us to fill.